Juan Cortina, or the Robin Hood of the Rio Grande Valley, is a Mexican folk hero. Cortina was born on May 16, 1824 in Carmago, Tamaulipas to Estefana and Trinidad Cortina. Cortina's family received the Espirito land grant, the largest in the Rio Grande Valley, from Spain and moved to that land while Cortina was still young. Cortina served as part of an irregular cavalry in the Mexican-American War, or War of American Aggression as Mexico calls it. Cortina fought under General Mariano Arista during the battles of Resaca de la Palma and Palo Alto. Following Mexico's loss, the Mexican community in South Texas, especially the Rio Grande Valley, saw violence and exploitation through unfair land laws. Many Mexicans saw their fortunes, land, and status slip away from them. Cortina and his family were no different. On July 13, 1859, Cortina witnessed City Marshal Robert Shears brutally beat a vaquero who once worked for Cortina. Angry, Cortina shot the marshal in the shoulder, grabbed the vaquero, and raced out of town with him. Eventually, September 23, 1859, Cortina returned to Brownsville, with the group historians say ranged from about 50 to 80 men. Cortina took the city and held it while his men sought out Anglos who had gotten away with abusing and murdering Mexicans. Citizens sent a telegraph to the army who had recently abandoned Fort Brown, asking them to return to Brownsville. But the army did not believe their story. And with the army not coming, one citizen traveled to Matamoros, a city across the river, and asked the Mexican government for help. José María Carvajal crossed into Brownsville and negotiated with Cortina. Carvajal managed to get Cortina to leave the city to go to his Santa Rita ranch in Cameron County. On September 30, 1859, Cortina issued a pronunciamiento stating, Mexicans, when the state of Texas began to receive the new organization which its sovereignty required as an integral part of the Union, flocks of vampires in the guise of men came and scattered themselves in the settlements, without any capital except the corrupt heart and the most perverse intentions. Many of you have been robbed of your property, incarcerated, chased, murdered, and hunted like wild beasts, because your labor was fruitful, and because your industry excited the vile avarice which led them. A voice infernal said, from the bottom of their soul, kill them, the greater will be our gain. Ah, this does not finish the sketch of your situation. It would appear that justice had fled from this world, leaving you to the caprice of your oppressors, who become each day more furious towards you. That, through witness and false charges, although the grounds may be insufficient, you may be interred in the penitentiaries, if you are not previously deprived of life by some keeper who covers himself from responsibility by the pretense of your flight. Following the pronunciamiento, local militia groups like the Brownsville Tigers began open warfare against Cortina and his men. Eventually, the Texas Rangers and the U.S. Army, later including Robert E. Lee, came to the region. This conflict was called the Cortina War. Battles raged on both sides of the border. Locals supported Cortina, who they saw as someone finally standing up to the Anglo oppression. Their support ranged from food to places to stay and even intelligence. With the arrival of the U.S. Army came better artillery and larger numbers, and eventually Cortina's forces were defeated. Just outside Rio Grande City, the defeat led to Cortina riding away to continue his struggle for the lower classes who supported him the most. The support from the lower class would lead him to join the Union Army during the Civil War and invade and attack Confederate forces in Zapata County in what was known as the Second Cortina War. Eventually, his forces were defeated by Confederate Colonel Santos Benavides of Laredo. But later, when the French invaded Mexico, Cortina traveled to help defend the country and fought in the Battle of La Puebla, later to be celebrated by Cinco de Mayo. In 1863, Cortina proclaimed himself governor of Tamaulipas and was promoted to general of the Mexican Army of the North by President Benito Juarez. Cortina returned to the border in 1870. When he returned, 41 residents of the RGV, including former mayor of Brownsville, signed a petition asking that he be pardoned for his crimes because of his service to the Union during the Civil War. But in 1871, the petition failed in the Texas legislature on its second reading. Cortina would continue to be accused of raiding cattle to the point that tensions increased between Mexico and the United States. Eventually, Cortina was placed under house arrest in a large mansion in Mexico where he lived the rest of his days in peace.